Thank you.
All right, let's look ahead to the critical vote on Super Tuesday and beyond. We have with us this morning the Root.com politics editor, Jason Johnson, and political strategist, Jonathan Tassini. Good to have both of you. And I want to start with you, Jason. We heard there that, at least rhetorically, Hillary Clinton seems to be looking ahead to the general election, focusing on Donald Trump. We don't want to write Senator Sanders' political obituary, but is she clear to look toward the general now?
Yeah, it makes sense. If you look, Victor, at what the Super Tuesday states are, you have Tennessee, you have Georgia, you have a lot of southern states where there's a larger percentage of African-American voters in this election than you had in 2008. Those voters are likely going to go with Hillary Clinton. She's not being cocky or arrogant right now to start pivoting towards a general election and tailoring her message for that challenge.
Okay, so Jonathan, let's look at Sanders and this map. Let's put up the Super Tuesday map again, if we can. He will win Vermont. It's his home state. Could do well in Minnesota, Massachusetts, Colorado, maybe Oklahoma. Should he really put any resources in the South, considering the numbers that we saw to South Carolina?
Well, he had 10,000 people show up yesterday early morning in Austin, Texas. So I think, as you quite well know, much of those elections happen by congressional districts. So I think what we're doing is targeting particularly congressional districts in the Austin area, for example, where Bernie can do very well. And looking beyond Super Tuesday, I think we're going to get our good share of delegates. As you know, they're proportional. We're coming up to Michigan on the 15th. There's states like Ohio and Illinois, particularly where Bernie can point out that Hillary Clinton has long supported bad trade agreements like NAFTA that destroyed millions of good-paying American jobs. And I think workers, particularly in those states like Ohio, are going to be paying attention to that and supporting Bernie Sanders over Clinton, particularly on the trade issue where she's been supporting corporate trade agreements.
Let me ask you, stay with you for this. After these close losses in Iowa and Nevada, Senator Sanders has been able to raise a lot of money online. Does he raise as much money when he loses by 47 points?
Well, I think he has, and he continues to raise a ton of money, and that's why he's going to be competitive in all those Super Tuesday states. He'll be on television wherever he needs to be. And then again, let's keep in mind that we're going into other states like Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, where I think Bernie is going to do quite well on the economic issues, on trade issues in particular, where Hillary Clinton has supported NAFTA and many very bad trade agreements that have hurt African Americans and lots of other workers throughout those states.
So, Jason, is there still a viable path, in your opinion, for Senator Sanders to the nomination?
There's a possible path, Victor. I don't know if I would say it's viable. At this point, the way that you really want to plan Super Tuesday is it doesn't matter if you're still behind in the delegates. You just have to be in striking distance. So as long as Bernie Sanders keeps Hillary Clinton from running up the score in Tennessee, running up the score in Georgia, running up the score in Texas, he can stay competitive. And if he can keep spending money and keep his message out there, I really do think he can push this. Whether or not he can win the nomination at this point, he would have to probably split a lot of these Super Tuesday states and get a big victory himself.
Do you think the win was big enough for Hillary Clinton, and it was, I guess, a big enough blow to Sanders that it changes fundamentally the narrative of the race moving forward?
I don't think it changes the narrative that we're going to hear, but it changes the narrative within the campaigns. The Sanders campaign, they had tons of endorsements. They went to African-American college tours, and he did worse with black voters in South Carolina than he did in Nevada. So I think his campaign internally is changing the message. What are we not doing to connect not just with older black voters, but younger black voters, Latinos? We got to do something better moving forward.
So, Jonathan, let me bring that to you. What does the Sanders campaign change now?
Well, let's, again, put this in context where Bernie started out, when he looked at Iowa and New Hampshire, 25, 30, 40 points behind. He got more votes, in my opinion, in Iowa. All the delegate math was different. He crushed Hillary Clinton in New Hampshire, came close in Nevada where he'd been 30 points behind. This has been the story of the whole campaign. It is true to calendar. It's a short calendar, relatively speaking, but every time Bernie goes out and speaks to people, every time he's able to get his message out, he does very well. In South Carolina, it was a big hill to climb, no question. But I think we're moving into a lot of states and looking beyond that, even down into April, where we can get a lot of delegates to do very well. As you know, politics can change on a dime, and if Hillary Clinton continues to deny and refuse to release those speeches that she gave to banks, over $2 million, 12 big banks, Goldman Sachs, people are going to start to question, who is she supporting, us or the banks?
Jonathan, Jason, let me just say, I want to come to you on those speeches, but let me come to you. And you say that every time he speaks to people, he does very well. He had several rallies in South Carolina. The most recent one at Claflin University and HBCU. The reporting was that half the crowd expected showed up. It was the smallest group he'd gotten in recent times. So that doesn't prove to be true for what we saw at South Carolina, does it, Jonathan?
Well, I think South Carolina, Hillary Clinton clearly did very well. But if you look at all the states, again, going back to Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, he closed the gap. He crushed in New Hampshire. He'd been far, far behind. And I think that's going to be instructive as we move to the other states. Texas was one state you didn't mention. 10,000 people showed up in Austin. I think we're going to collect, as your other commentator mentioned. Our goal is to get as many delegates as possible in the Super Tuesday states and then move into the other states like Michigan, Illinois, Florida, the ones that are coming up in March. Let's see what happens by the end of the month.
Jason, finally to you. Is this line, this narrative about release the transcripts of these Wall Street speeches? We even heard the editorial board from the New York Times read that they want those out, too. Right. Is that resonating?
No, I don't think that's going to make that much of a difference. And let's be honest, anytime your campaign is saying, once you get to know me, I'll do better, it means you're losing. People already know who Senator Bernie Sanders is. That's why he was able to sort of lessen the gap with him and Hillary Clinton. But clearly, the people who have gotten to know him, certainly in incredible, important minority constituencies, they still don't like him. And that's why Hillary Clinton did so well in South Carolina.
Latino vote in Nevada.
We got to wrap it there. Jonathan, Jason, good to have you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Democratic contest, as we said, moves to the Midwest and the